We are now joined by Leland Miller, CEO of China Beige Book. Leland, welcome to NinjaTrader Live. Pleasure to meet you, my friend.
Good morning.
We've been talking about having you on, and what better time than right now as we are really hopefully getting close to some closure for Chinese tariffs negotiations with U.S. My first question is the question, what are your thoughts on how Besant is handling the negotiations, and where do you possibly see we land?
Well, you're assuming there are negotiations. The Treasury Secretary is theoretically in charge of the trade policy right now. But I think right now they're in a situation where, they want the Chinese to come to the table first. The Chinese want the Americans to come to the table first. It's more of an issue of optics. And so once they get past this issue of optics, and they will, then you're going to have a situation where they can come to the table. And then you got to figure out what a negotiation looks like. What does the American side actually want? And the major problem with what the U.S. has been doing on the trade side is they come to the table. They're forcing everyone in the world to come to the table, and then they don't have any asks. It's the big complaint for the Japanese, for the Europeans, for the Southeast Asians. They say we come to the table in the United States, and they don't even have any asks. So there's a whole bunch of steps here in order to get things on track, and it's not about to be over anytime soon.
Yeah, that was another question I was going to ask. I mean, we have this 90 days and we still haven't seen any deals, and particularly with China. So how long do you think this can stretch on?
Well, this is a question for traders. What is the plan? The plan is we're going to do 18 deals in 15 days, negotiations, and then we're going to give thumbs up or thumbs down. And we're not just dealing with tariffs, we're dealing with non-tariff barriers, we're dealing with health regulations and phytosanitary standards. It's impossible. Every deal usually requires a period in order to understand what the non-tariff barriers require. What is the situation? What is the landscape that we're looking at? And then how do we start negotiating not just the tariff side, but also the non-tariff side? Each of these major deals are usually about 18 months, 12 to 18 months a piece. We're going to do 18 deals in 15 days. So the question then is, you can get someone coming to a podium and saying, we've got a deal. Yeah, we don't have details, but we've got a deal. And the question is, are markets going to buy that? So if they come out in the next couple of days and they say we have a deal with India, we have a deal with Japan, we have a deal with Korea, we have a deal with some others, and it's basically a framework for a future deal, do markets care? Now, there's a very good chance that markets don't care so long as that is accompanied by some sort of promise that tariffs will either remain low or go lower. So a lot of this is going to be the market interpretation of what's happening. You obviously cannot negotiate 180 trade deals in 180 days and expect anything to happen. Or less. So a lot of this is going to be market optics on what the Trump administration is doing. They're trying to signal that big things are happening right now, but none of this can be done within 90 days on a grand scale. So the question is, how much of the baby stuff is significant enough for markets to pay attention?
And then I wanted to ask you, we saw data overnight. We saw contraction in the Chinese manufacturing market. Does this have anything to do with tariffs, and should we expect this to contract even further?
Well, the PMI has been running about a month behind China Beige Book monthly flash data for a while now, but it's been really, really evident since the end of last year. This idea that Chinese manufacturing is doing well last month is ridiculous. We actually had it doing really poorly. We had a March month doing very poorly. A lot of this is reflected in some of the April data that's coming out or will be coming out. We're going to be releasing some April data coming up later today, but I'll hint in saying that the economy's not doing well, and it's under tremendous pressure. It's also not falling apart. Manufacturing is definitely under siege right now. They're going to continue to support manufacturing from the front end, from the back end. So the Chinese economy, as long as we have these tariffs, is going to be under a lot of pressure. There's no question about that. They're going to be ramping up fiscal support, which they haven't done in the past. They're going to continue to keep monetary easing going, which they've been doing for a while now. So their support for the economy, it's not big bang. It's not something that everyone's been anticipating for years and years. They're going to bring back the bazooka, but they are supporting the economy. And their goal is to wait out the Trump administration until they come back to the table, bring tariffs down, or they have to batten down the hatches and go much more aggressive. So right now we're in a waiting period on that. But to answer your question, the economy's not doing great, but it's also not falling apart. So they're holding steady.
So I have a question about the overall long-term impacts of tariffs. Do you believe that what the Trump administration is doing is going to have an overall positive impact for the United States going forward? Is this something you believe they should be doing?
Well, look, most of the discussion around tariffs is binary. Either tariffs are economically bad in all cases, or some others, including in the administration, have this idea that there's just all upside to tariffs. So there's no downside. And so you put them in place and it's just like a cash register, ching, 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 ching. Both of those views are wrong. And one of the reasons that tariffs are part of the discussion right now is not for purely economic purposes, but for national security purposes. So if you've deindustrialized your economy, if you have significant supply chain choke points where the Chinese are in control of your supply chain, or other countries, the U.S. have an adverse relationship with are in control of your supply chain, and you need to shift more of your production either back home or to allies, you may need tariffs as a device for doing this. So tariffs have their place in the grand scheme of things. Now, you can't do everything with tariffs, and you can't do everything to everyone at the same time with tariffs. I think the major problem with this is back in November, we put out a lot of guidance on what the administration's plan going from the transition, going into the administration was on tariffs. And, the guidance, of course, was here's what they're thinking right now. Here's the plan. Be prepared for global tariffs. Be prepared for big China tariffs. They're much more serious about tariffs than markets expect. Everyone's taken the wrong lesson from Trump 1. The idea that they're going to let the Wall Street, the equity markets guide them, that tariffs are for deal making, none of this is true. They want to restructure economic relationships. On the other hand, the plan with President Trump is always sort of chaos. And so they had a plan. They had a sequencing for laying out the tariffs. And, you go to Mexico and Canada first, and you focus on fentanyl and illegal immigration. You move on to global tariffs or to Europe. You deal with some of the structural imbalances there. And then you basically prepare everything for the larger battle against China. That went out the window immediately. The cadence was wrong. The sequencing fell apart. And so now they're dealing with a situation where they're trying to talk about how this is all about China, but they're actually going to war with every other country in the world, including Canada. And you need USMCA countries as your base of production if you're going to be credibly arguing that you can hold the line against Europe or against China or anyone else in terms of bringing production home, using tariffs as a weapon, being sustainably able to continue a tariff campaign without price pressures blowing through the roof. So the problem is not with the idea of tariffs in some sort of, 30,000-foot level. It's that you have to sequence these right. And when you just explode in every direction at the same time in massive numbers, then you're going to have a lot more obstacles. And I think that's what they're dealing with right now.
And then your thoughts on, we've seen a lot of central bank buying of gold. I kind of want to switch this to the commodity side for a little bit, particularly China. Do you see this continuing? And is this what some people say is a way to get away from the dollar?
Well, a lot of what the administration's been doing has scared investors. And so there's been a flight from U.S. dollar assets. People want to, for a while, we're selling equities, selling bonds at the same time. So there is a desire by investors writ large to diversify their assets. The problem is you can't really diversify your assets in a big way. So what you're doing is you're buying other things on the margin. You're buying some other currencies on the margin. You're buying more gold. Maybe you're diversifying into something else. But you can't get away from the dollar as the reserve currency. The only thing that could be done in order to rip away the reserve currency of the dollar is if the U.S. does it itself. And it could. It's possible. But right now, we're not there. And so I think right now what you're seeing is a lot of people say, we don't love what's going on with American trade policy. We want to get away from this over-reliance of the dollar. We cannot do that structurally, but on the margins, we can start buying some other things and we can sort of trim our dollar holdings and so forth. So that's where we are right now. This has an upward effect on gold, no question. But the idea that you can run away from the dollar, it's just not possible at this point unless things get a lot worse.
Leland, I know we only have a couple minutes left for you, and I don't know if you really had a chance to catch all that data that Chai was talking about. Any initial thoughts on some of this data coming out? And I know that we've got Fed next week. Maybe just kind of get a preview from you on your thoughts.
We spend quite a lot of time with the Fed as well. But what I will say here is that the Fed, in a certain situation, would be forced to step in. They really don't want to look like they're bailing out the Trump administration on a tariff policy they're not particularly fond of. So the Fed is watching nervously from the sidelines. Right now, the issue for the Trump administration is they've already signaled that they're going to pivot. The question is, how do they get from A to C, with B being somebody putting a concession on the table and making it look like the administration is not conceding anything. It's not walking back any type of policies. And I think what you're looking at in the last several weeks was a reaction function that was focused on the bond market. And the bond market started to make the administration a little bit nervous. Equity markets did. They saw the falls in stocks and they didn't care. They had steeled themselves going in that, look, we are trying to do big structural change. And so we're not going to watch the short-term flow of stocks. That doesn't matter. What we want to do is a paradigm shift, and that's going to require a little bit of short-term pain. When the bond market got involved, a little bit different. So they started peeling back their policy, started saying, look, we're going to, this reciprocal tariff stuff, these numbers are pretty high. We're going to put a 90-day pause and sort of think about how to better integrate this policy into reality. And now you're looking at a reaction function that's quickly shifting to the real economy. So, in a number of weeks, you're going to actually see some significant economic effects in the United States. from the China tariffs. You have a lot of shipping, logistics, and other things that have been dramatically affected, freight's down. And so the question is whether they're going to feel inclined to pivot sooner rather than later based on the changes in the economy we'll probably be seeing in under 2 weeks. Maybe less, maybe much less. So I think we are headed in that direction. I think that there is going to be a pivot in tariff policy again. And I think there's going to be additional pressure on the administration to tone down some of the tariff rhetoric as we go into the tax season and start dealing with the reconciliation bill, where they want to coalesce around some of the president's big picture priorities. So I think there's going to be some major changes in tariff policy in the coming weeks, and that's something we should have our radar up for.
And we'll leave it there. Leland Miller, CEO of China Beige Book. This was great. I got to tell you what, insight that I have not heard. Thank you so much for joining us.
This presentation is for educational purposes only. All of the symbols, trading ideas, and live trading are for demonstrational purposes and are not recommendations or trading advice. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. All of the information and opinions expressed by third-party guests are their own and are not necessarily those of NinjaTrader, LLC. Trading futures involves substantial risk and may not be suitable for everyone, and trading futures can result in losses greater than the initial required margin. Traders should only trade futures with risk capital. Risk capital is money that you can afford to lose without jeopardizing your financial security or current lifestyle. You can find additional disclosure information on the NinjaTrader website.